when super coaches take over national teams. Can club football's greatest managers really conquer the World Cup? What happens when the greatest club managers of an entire generation run out of mountains to climb? What happens after they have won the Champions League, dominated domestic football, rebuilt fallen giants, and changed the way the game itself is played? Do they retire? Do they take another billion-dollar club job? Or do they chase the one trophy that even money cannot buy? The World Cup. Now look at what is happening. Jürgen Klopp is being connected with Germany. Zinedine Zidane appears destined for France. Italy have explored the possibility of Pep Guardiola. Carlo Ancelotti has taken charge of Brazil. Thomas Tuchel moved into the England job. Mauricio Pochettino accepted the challenge of leading the United States. This is no longer one famous manager trying something different. It may be the beginning of a major shift in world football. But here is the real question. Are these legendary club coaches actually built for international football? Or are national federations paying for famous names and assuming that Champions League success can simply be copied and pasted into a World Cup? That is what we are going to examine. And one quick note before we begin. This video and this channel are designed primarily for voice. You do not need to watch the screen. You can work, drive, exercise, or relax while listening to this like an entertainment and knowledge podcast. Now, let us get into it. For more than a decade, three managers have defined the highest level of club football. Jürgen Klopp brought Borussia Dortmund back to life, broke Bayern Munich's domestic dominance, and later transformed Liverpool from a sleeping giant into champions of England, Europe, and the world. Zinedine Zidane achieved something that looked almost impossible in the modern era: 3 consecutive Champions League titles with Real Madrid. Not 3 in 5 years, not 3 across multiple rebuilds, 3 in a row. And then there is Pep Guardiola, a coach whose influence extends far beyond his own trophy cabinet. Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, different countries, different leagues, different players, but the same obsession with space, control, positioning, and domination. These are not simply successful coaches. They are 3 of the defining football minds of their generation. And now international football is beginning to call. But before we decide whether this is a new trend, we need to understand why national teams suddenly find these managers so attractive. Because on the surface, the logic appears obvious. If a coach can survive Real Madrid, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, or Manchester City, surely he can handle a national team. If he can manage a dressing room filled with global superstars, prepare for a Champions League final, and survive relentless pressure every weekend, why would international football be more difficult? But that question hides a dangerous assumption. International football is not simply club football with fewer matches. It is almost a different profession. And some of the qualities that create a brilliant club coach may become limitations at national team level. That is where this story becomes much more interesting. The first wave has already arrived. Klopp, Zidane, and Guardiola may represent the most glamorous version of this movement, but they are not the beginning. The first wave has already reached international football. Carlo Ancelotti left the club environment to lead Brazil. Thomas Tuchel, a Champions League winner with Chelsea, accepted the England job. Mauricio Pochettino, after managing Tottenham, Paris Saint-Germain, and Chelsea, moved into international football with the United States. 3 major football nations. 3 highly respected club coaches. 3 very different missions. Brazil wanted Ancelotti to bring calm, experience, and elite-level authority to a national team that had lost its sense of certainty. England wanted Tuchel to deliver the final step. Not progress, not another respectable tournament, a trophy. The United States wanted Pochettino to raise the level of the team before a home World Cup and create a more demanding, more competitive culture. The logic behind all 3 appointments was similar. These teams already had talented players. What they believed they needed was an elite coach capable of turning talent into tournament success. And that idea is extremely attractive to a football federation. Hiring a superstar manager immediately changes the atmosphere. Players pay attention. Sponsors become interested. Supporters feel hope. The media begins talking about a new era. A famous appointment creates the impression that a federation is acting boldly. But the problem is simple. A big name can change expectations overnight. It cannot rebuild an entire football system overnight. A manager can improve organization, communication, mentality, and tactical discipline. He cannot instantly create a world-class striker if the country does not have one. He cannot buy a new defensive midfielder. He cannot fix a broken youth development system in 6 months. And he cannot guarantee that one bad night in a knockout match will not destroy 4 years of planning. That is the first major difference between club football and international football. Control. At a club, the manager can shape the environment. With a national team, the environment shapes the manager. Why club football and international football are so different. Let us begin with the most important factor: time. At a club, coaches work with their players almost every day. They repeat movements, they correct distances, they rehearse pressing triggers, they adjust build-up patterns. They work on how the left back moves when the right winger comes inside. They can spend weeks perfecting one specific mechanism. Eventually, players stop thinking about the system. They begin reacting automatically. That is what high-level club football looks like. Not 11 players making 11 separate decisions. One collective organism. But a national team coach does not have that luxury. Players arrive from different clubs, different leagues, and different tactical environments. One defender may spend the entire season playing in a high defensive line. Another may defend close to his own penalty area every weekend. One midfielder may be asked to play with complete positional discipline. Another may be encouraged to roam freely. Then they meet at the national team, train together for a few days, and are expected to function as one unit. There is no time to erase every club habit. There is no time to build a completely new football language. That means international tactics must be clear, transferable, and easy to understand. Not intellectually simple, but operationally simple. Players must know what to do after only a small number of training sessions. That immediately creates a challenge for coaches whose success depends on extremely detailed systems. And this is where Klopp and Guardiola become fascinating examples. Klopp's best teams were built around intensity, pressing, counter-pressing, immediate reaction after losing the ball, collective movement at high speed. But that level of synchronization does not appear after one motivational speech and 3 training sessions. It takes repetition. It takes physical conditioning. It takes trust between players who understand exactly where their teammates will move. Guardiola's football may be even more demanding. His players do not simply pass the ball and keep possession. They occupy precise spaces. They create passing angles. They manipulate the opponent's defensive shape. They understand when to stay wide, when to move inside, when to create overloads, and when to remain still. A small positional mistake can damage the entire structure. At Barcelona, Bayern, and Manchester City, Guardiola could teach these ideas every day. With a national team, he might have less than 2 weeks before a major tournament match. That does not mean Klopp or Guardiola could never succeed internationally. It means they would have to change, and perhaps even more importantly, they would have to simplify. The second difference: you cannot buy the player you need. Club managers build squads. National team managers inherit populations. That distinction changes everything. At a club, if the coach needs a fast center back, the sporting director can enter the transfer market. If the team lacks a defensive midfielder, the club can identify one. If the striker does not fit the pressing system, the manager can request another profile. International football offers no such solution. A national coach must work with the players the country produces. If the nation has 5 elite attacking midfielders but no natural striker, the coach must solve the problem tactically. If the available defenders are not fast enough to protect a high line, the defensive structure must change. If the team has brilliant wingers but weak fullbacks, the manager must find a balance without buying anyone. This is why international football rewards adaptation. The best national team coaches do not ask, "How do I force these players into my preferred system?" They ask, "What system gives these players the best chance to win?" That sounds obvious, but elite club managers often become famous because of a very specific identity. They are hired because clubs want their football, their pressing, their possession, their structure, their philosophy. At international level, philosophy must sometimes surrender to reality. and not every great coach is comfortable doing that. The third difference: there is almost no time to recover. A club can lose 3 matches and still win the league. A national team can play one poor match and disappear from the World Cup. That single fact changes the psychology of the job. Tournament football is volatile. One red card, one penalty, one deflection, one injury, one goalkeeper having the greatest night of his career. That may be enough to destroy an entire campaign. A club season gives managers a large sample of matches. Over 30, 40, or 50 games, quality usually has time to reveal itself. The best teams can recover from temporary problems. A World Cup does not offer that protection. A manager may prepare well, dominate the ball, create more chances, and still lose. Then 4 years of work are judged through 90 minutes. That is why knockout football often rewards pragmatism. The winner is not always the team with the most beautiful system. It is often the team that manages risk, survives difficult moments, and makes fewer fatal mistakes. This is where some managers with less glamorous club reputations can outperform tactical superstars. Because international football is not always about constructing the perfect machine. Sometimes it is about building something that does not break. History shows that club success can transfer. There are, of course, major examples of coaches who succeeded in both environments. Vicente Del Bosque won the Champions League twice with Real Madrid. Then he led Spain to the 2010 World Cup and Euro 2012. But Del Bosque did not arrive and attempt to reinvent Spanish football. He inherited a team that had already won Euro 2008. Many of his players came from Barcelona and Real Madrid. The tactical identity was already familiar. The greatest challenge was not teaching every movement from the beginning. It was protecting the balance of the group, managing personalities, managing rivalry, allowing a successful system to continue without unnecessary disruption. That may sound less dramatic than a tactical revolution, but it is one of the most difficult skills in management, knowing when not to change something. Marcello Lippi also succeeded in both worlds. He won the Champions League with Juventus and later led Italy to the 2006 World Cup. That Italian team was not built around one superstar or one spectacular tactical idea. It was built to survive. Strong defensive organization, multiple goal scorers, experience, emotional control, the ability to win different types of matches. Italy did not need to be brilliant for every minute of the tournament. They needed to remain alive. And that is often the central skill in World Cup football. Rinus Michels offers another important example. He won the European Cup with Ajax, helped shape total football, took the Netherlands to the 1974 World Cup final, and later won Euro 1988. But Michels benefited from something crucial. Many of his national team players already understood his ideas. They came from a football culture that had developed around similar principles. He was not introducing a completely foreign language. He was reconnecting players with concepts they already knew. That is very different from a superstar coach arriving in a country whose football identity does not naturally fit his methods. Then there is Didier Deschamps. He had strong club experience before taking over France. But his greatest skill with the national team was not producing the most fashionable football. It was building a team capable of winning tournaments. France could press, they could defend, they could counterattack, they could dominate possession when necessary, but they were never trapped inside one idealized version of the game. Deschamps understood that international football rewards flexibility, and he accepted criticism about style because he valued control over admiration. That approach helped France win the 2018 World Cup and reach another final in 2022. The lesson is clear. Club success can transfer, but it usually transfers through adaptation, not replication. History also offers serious warnings. Fabio Capello arrived at England with one of the strongest club resumes in football: league titles in Italy and Spain, a European Cup with AC Milan, a reputation for discipline, authority, and tactical control. But England's 2010 World Cup ended in a 4-1 defeat against Germany. Capello's authority was real, but international management requires more than authority. At a club, strict rules can shape behavior over an entire season. At a national team, players arrive for a short period, follow different methods at their clubs, and leave again. The coach cannot fully control the environment. He must persuade quickly, create trust quickly, build clarity quickly. There is no time for a long cultural transformation. Hansi Flick may be an even more relevant warning. At Bayern Munich, Flick built one of the most dominant teams of the modern era. Bayern pressed aggressively, attacked at speed, and moved with extraordinary coordination. They won the Champions League and completed a historic campaign. Then, Flick took over Germany, but the national team could not reproduce Bayern's football. Germany were eliminated from the group stage at the 2022 World Cup. Flick was later dismissed. Did he suddenly forget how to coach? Of course not. The conditions had changed. He no longer trained the players every day. He did not have a squad constructed specifically for his system. He could not solve weaknesses through transfers. The Bayern model depended on an environment that did not exist with Germany. And that should matter when people talk about Klopp, because Klopp may face the same fundamental problem. His emotional power could transform the atmosphere around the German team, but emotion alone cannot create automatic pressing patterns. Klopp and Germany, the emotional perfect match. Of all the possible national team appointments, Klopp and Germany may feel the most natural. He knows the country. He knows the Bundesliga. He understands the expectations surrounding the national team. And perhaps most importantly, he knows how to reconnect a football institution with its supporters. At Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool, Klopp did more than improve results. He created belief. He convinced players, supporters, and the club itself that they were part of one emotional project. Germany may need exactly that. After repeated tournament disappointments, the problem is not only tactical, it is also psychological. The national team has lost some of the certainty that once defined German football. Klopp could restore energy, identity, and public connection. But this is also where the danger begins. Supporters may expect Germany to look like Liverpool. Fast, aggressive, emotional, relentless. But national team football does not give Klopp enough time to build Liverpool again. He would need to create a reduced version of his football. Clear pressing rules instead of an endlessly detailed pressing system. Controlled aggression instead of constant maximum intensity. A structure that can function after limited preparation. Klopp's greatest test would not be whether he can teach Germany his football. It would be whether he can decide which parts of his football must be removed. That is a very different challenge. Zidane and France may be the best tournament fit. Zidane represents almost the opposite profile. He is not usually described as a coach obsessed with one rigid tactical system. His greatest strength at Real Madrid appeared to be management, of stars, of pressure, of changing situations, of knockout matches. 3 consecutive Champions League titles were not produced by luck alone. Zidane repeatedly found solutions in the biggest games. Sometimes Real Madrid controlled possession. Sometimes they defended deeper. Sometimes they attacked through the wings. Sometimes they relied on midfield experience. Zidane did not force every match into one tactical story. He adapted. That could make him extremely suitable for France. France rarely lacked talent. Their problem is usually selection, balance, roles, managing multiple elite players who expect to start. A national team coach may have to tell one of the best forwards in Europe that he is not in the first 11. He may have to keep substitutes emotionally involved during a short tournament. He may have to manage media pressure around global superstars. Zidane has already worked in that kind of environment. But there are still major questions. He has been away from coaching for a significant period. He has also managed only one senior club. Admittedly, that club was Real Madrid. But international management creates different problems, and following Deschamps would be difficult for anyone. Deschamps built a long period of stability. Zidane would need to decide what to preserve and what to change. Change too little, and people may ask what he has added. Change too much, and he could destroy a structure that still works. His challenge would not simply be winning. It would be managing a transition between 2 enormous football identities. Guardiola in Italy, the experiment that may never happen. Italy's interest in Guardiola matters even if the appointment never happens. It reveals how national federations now think. A country with one of football's deepest tactical traditions considered bringing in the most influential positional coach of the modern era. That alone is significant. It suggests that federations are no longer limiting themselves to traditional international managers or domestic candidates. They are looking at the elite club market. But Guardiola may also be the most difficult superstar coach to transfer into international football. His teams require precision. Players must understand space, timing, and positioning at an elite level. A winger may need to stay wide even when he wants the ball. A midfielder may move only to create space for someone else. A defender may step into midfield to change the opponent's pressing structure. These actions require repetition and trust. Could Guardiola teach enough of that in short international windows? Possibly, but he would almost certainly need to compromise. The more interesting question may be whether he would enjoy compromising. At club level, Guardiola can influence recruitment, training, and tactical development every day. International football would take away much of that control, and perhaps that is why the national team job is still not the natural destination for every elite coach. The prestige is enormous. The control is not. The biggest counter-argument. There is another side to this trend. Maybe national teams do not need superstar club managers at all. Some of the most successful international coaches come from inside the national system. They understand the federation. They know the youth teams. They have already worked with the players. They understand the country's football identity before taking charge of the senior team. That continuity can be more valuable than celebrity. A famous club coach brings new ideas and immediate authority. An internal coach brings familiarity and alignment. One offers impact, the other offers connection. And at international level, connection may be more difficult to create than tactics. There is also a historical pattern worth remembering. Men's World Cup winners have traditionally been coached by managers from the same country. That does not prove a foreign coach cannot win, but it suggests that cultural understanding matters, language matters, national identity matters. Knowing how a country reacts to pressure matters. The best tactical plan can fail if the coach never fully understands the emotional environment surrounding the team. So, is this really a trend? Yes, but it is important to define the trend correctly. This is a trend in recruitment, not yet a guaranteed trend in success. More national federations are willing to hire foreign managers. More are willing to pay elite salaries. More are searching for coaches with Champions League experience. They want credibility, authority, instant belief, and a recognizable face who can represent a new era. But the results will still depend on fit. A tactical specialist may succeed if he can simplify his methods. A strong personality may succeed if he can unite the group. A superstar name may fail if he tries to recreate club football without club-level preparation. The question is not whether Klopp, Zidane, Guardiola, Ancelotti, Tuchel, or Pochettino understand football. Of course they do. The question is whether their greatest strengths remain strengths when time, control, and player selection are taken away. That is the real test. What actually determines success? First, simplification. Can the coach turn complex ideas into clear instructions? Second, adaptation. Can he build around the available players instead of demanding players who do not exist? Third, emotional management. Can he keep 26 players connected when only 11 can start? Fourth, tournament intelligence. Can he manage risk, substitutions, fatigue, and pressure across a short competition? Fifth, federation stability. Is the coach supported by a functioning organization, or is he being hired to hide deeper structural problems? And finally, luck. Because no matter how brilliant the preparation is, World Cups can turn on moments that no coach controls. That may be uncomfortable for people who want football to have perfect explanations, but tournament football has never been perfectly logical. Conclusion. The arrival of Ancelotti, Tuchel, and Pochettino in international football, combined with the possibility of Klopp, Zidane, and even Guardiola following the same path, tells us something important. The national team job is changing. It is no longer automatically seen as a retirement position or a slower alternative to club management. For some of the greatest coaches in the world, it may now represent the final challenge. But the World Cup is not another Champions League campaign. It does not offer a transfer market. It does not offer daily training. It does not offer months to correct mistakes. And it does not care how many trophies a coach won before arriving. At a club, the manager is an architect. He selects materials, changes the design, replaces weak parts, and builds over time. With a national team, he inherits a structure that already exists. He cannot replace every piece. He has limited time. And after only a few matches, the entire world decides whether the building can survive the storm. That is why a legendary club coach can become a world champion. And it is also why he can be eliminated in the first knockout round. Not because he suddenly became a bad coach, but because international football asks a completely different question. Not, how brilliant is your system? But, how much of your brilliance can survive when almost everything is outside your control?